He's nice guy.
I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 Norristown Municipal Council meeting. Can I have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, can I have roll call, please?
Hakeem Jones.
Here.
Rebecca Smith.
Here.
Rashad Bates.
Here.
Tiffani Hendley.
She is here.
Okay. Dustin Queenan.
Here.
Heather Lewis.
Here.
Thomas LaPera.
Here. Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Executive session announcement. We had an executive session pertaining to personnel. Madam Vice President, any announcements?
I'm gonna be smart and say that National Night Out is going on right now. So if y'all wanna go out and attend it after the council meeting, feel free. Council, any other announcements? Seeing none?
Madam Secretary, do we have public comment?
Yes. Get my sheet over here.
We just have one more person.
Okay. Okay. Carol Johnson or Carrie L. Johnson?
Just step right up here in the middle. Just need to say your name and where you're from and your public comment.
Carl Johnson, Norristown, resident, born and raised, realtor with Keller Williams. And my issue today is with use and occupancy. Issues that we run into when it pertains to UNO, it's more of a dictatorship, meaning use and occupancy means to use and occupy. Things like pulling weeds as a requirement to sell a home is not a big deal. To ask someone to paint a wall if repairs were made and it wasn't painted, knowing that the new buyer is going to go in there and most likely paint the wall anyway, a different color, is not a requirement to use and occupy the house. Or suggesting an advertised property as a 3-bedroom has a finished 3rd floor that's just used as a sitting room, not a bedroom, but then tell them that they have to install a heater. And now the people that bought the house at a 3-bedroom price got a 4-bedroom house. None of those are safety issues. I think that's where the issue comes into play, and a lot of people find that as a gripe as an agent, which when I say I have a listing in Norristown or I've been given a listing in Norristown, so they don't have to deal with use and occupancy and all the stipulations and the money that their clients have to put out just to sell their house, to do outlandish things. Reason why I'm here tonight is because I have a client going through that now, where this deal may be falling apart, and this is their first impression of Norristown. When they've been running in Norristown, which was how I met them 6 years ago, they worked for the county, and they are now experiencing their first time home buying process. And we are down to the use and occupancy. Everything has been done as far as safety. The new issue is 2 doors, which were going to be replaced regardless by the buyer, but 2 doors that have holes punched in them. Now this is an estate. The kids are selling it for their parents. They're passed, they're deceased. And literally the doors are not off the hinges. They will not fall on anyone. They will not injure anyone. It's not a safety issue. It's an eyesore that the buyer is willing to deal with. It has nothing to do with using and occupying. Using it, the door still opens and closes. It serves its purpose. Not a safety issue. Should not be an issue. House also listed as a 1.5 bath. Has 2 functional 1.5 baths. There's a bathroom in the basement. It was in his work area. It's literally like the shower, the toilet, and the sink. The floor is the drain. It's set up that way. But it needs to be remodeled. And they were told it has to be remodeled or knocked down. Thousands of dollars to sell this house, or the buyer has to sign off being responsible. The house can be occupied. It has 2 functional bathrooms. And it was listed as a 1.5, not a 2.5. That's a decision based on the buyer.
This time limit on this public comment.
Thank you.
But we will have somebody get with you, try to address some concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, not sure if this is 2 names or 1. Ola? Is that, oh, you have
No.
oh, she's not, okay.
Sorry.
Stanley Garden?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How much time do I have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? So I must well get to the point I'm here for. I'm Stanley Darden. I live at 1057 Sweet Street, Norristown, PA. I've been living there for 40 years. Okay, so I'm here because the things that I see in Norristown that I know need to, my question is, who's running Norristown? Is it Borough Council? Is it the Borough Administrator? Is it the directors of this town? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out so I can answer the questions I need to ask. So can somebody answer that question for me?
This isn't really a question or answer forum. The council is in charge of hiring staff. Does
Okay,
the
so,
council's
okay,
agenda.
so what I'm here for is I'm looking at Norristown and I'm looking at its personal appearance. Okay, we have a lot of homeless people in Norristown now. We have a lot of properties that are dilapidated, that backyards are terrible. There's a lot of blight. We have a lot of drugs in Norristown. We have a lot of crime. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, we got all these people here on council and all these things. I mean, listen, I'm not the only one in Norristown to see this stuff, I know. You know, I look at Norristown every day. We got people parking on sidewalks. We got people parking in alleys. We got garages coming up in alleys that people are using for business purposes. So I mean, you know, I would guess they have to get a business permit to do these things. You know, housing, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do all you guys get together and talk about what's going on in Norristown? Do you guys have meetings? So I'm coming here with all these concerns. Do you see the same concerns that I see? So my question is, what are you guys doing about it? Because listen, I've been here for a long time and I really haven't seen nothing accomplished. You know, our streets is terrible. You know, you guys made some decisions. The people come out in our communities and work in Norristown, and they don't give us the same service they give in other communities. You know, you put these, it's just so much that's going on in Norristown that I'm really kind of confused about where is our help coming from. You know, what are you guys doing about all these homeless people, you know, releasing their body fluids? It's a health concern. You know, you got the cars parked in the alleys, you know what I'm saying? There's a safety concern. And listen, put it like this. About 3 weeks ago, I came out of my house, I went up the alley, and I made a left turn. And it was cars in the alley that I had to maneuver up on the sidewalk to get through. One of your police officers was sitting there, and I said to him, like, rolled the window down, he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "You can help me." I said, "You know, we got a lot of cars parked in the alley." And he said, "Okay." And so I said, "Are you going to do anything about it?" He said, "Yeah." He was parked, he went down the street, past the alley, was talking about, turned around. I made a U-turn in the middle of the street to try to catch him, because I didn't get his badge number. I mean, I'm saying, I live here, I'm a citizen, and that's the way you treat your citizens? What kind of communication do you want me to have with you, and you acting like that? Your job, from what I understand, is protect and serve.
Thank
You
you,
know,
sir.
so-
And if you stick around after the meeting, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about what we're doing as a council.
Okay, my last concern is this. If something's not done, then I have to take other alternatives to do something. So I may have to call TV news and say, "Listen, come look at this, listen to me what I'm saying."
That would be
Because there's something going on. Thank you.
Millie Kingsley? Millie Kingsley.
I don't want to take up a whole heck of a lot of your time tonight, but I do want to take up a lot of your time later on, maybe. I'm here to talk on behalf of the homeless.
Name and...
Mike Kingsley, and I work with the Hospitality Center on Church Street, and I run the Coalition to Save Lives, which is an inner-city outreach organization. Obviously, you've heard we've got a few homeless people here, 568. as of the last count in January, probably well over 600 today. I meet new ones every single day. So I saw tonight on the agenda is the dawn to dusk ordinance for the parks. And I'm here to just ask you to table that for a few years until we get this whole chalk thing figured out. No, I don't want 100 tents in every park. I'd like to find one park where we could put 100 tents and then leave the rest empty. But I ask you to just have a heart for some of these people. They are, some of them, and a major portion of them are long-term Norristown residents. Some of them grew up here, their families grew up here, and they have nowhere to go. Sure, a lot of them have drug addictions. I fight to say I would probably too if I had to live in the street every day. It's a horrible life. It's a horrible way to do every single day, sitting on a curb or sitting over at the hospitality center. No matter how well we treat them, it's still horrible. And I would just ask that we get together and chase the county, absolutely, chase the state to do something about it. I know Norristown isn't going to build a $20 million shelter, but maybe if we push the state and push the county, we can do something about this, because we do have a major homelessness problem here in the county, but we have everything they need right here. So let's try to work together and find a way to help them. I try every day. Got 3 people in the rehab this week. So it's a battle, but we can do it. And it just takes people that have a compassionate heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny Johnson.
Hello everyone, sorry. My name is Penny Johnson and I live here in Norristown, and I'm also here to speak about the ordinance for dusk till dawn. I ended up here in Norristown 13 years ago homeless, straight from the hospital because of, a lot of extenuating circumstances. I can tell you firsthand how dangerous it is for a woman to live on the street, okay? The parks and this, the recreation centers, they may not be a great place to sleep, but it's better than trying to hide in the woods somewhere where I have no safety, no light, no police driving around to check on me. We did absolutely nothing to stop the only adult shelter we had from closing. So all those individuals now have nowhere to go. So I'm just here to beg, like Mike said, can we postpone this dawn to dusk ordinance until we have a functioning shelter for these men and women to be, so they can be safe and not be victimized? Not every homeless person out there does leave trash. Not all of us, go off and defecate in corners. We are citizens. We are family members. We are mothers, fathers, daughters, sons. Like I said, since then, I got back on my feet. I have been working here, working with homeless and people with mental health now for 12 years. And that's all I can say is beg you to think about if it was one of your family members who doesn't have that safety. I slept on a park bench right by the courthouse for months because it was the safest place for me to be, because there was no shelter room. And now there's no shelter at all. So I'm just begging you to please keep that in mind. Think about the people that are involved the most. When, we've already thrown them out to the streets when we allowed the shelter to close. Let's not throw them out in the woods as well. Please.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anybody else from the crowd like to make public comment? Seeing none, move on to appointments. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, you have before you Resolution 22-51, 2022, for council to consider appointments to as follows. To the Recreation Committee, Alvina Ham and Stephanie Anderson, with terms expiring December 31st, 2026 and December 31st, 2025, respectively. To the Planning Commission, Adam Long and Aaron Wesley, with terms expiring December 31st, 2026, December 31st, 2025, respectively. To the Zoning Hearing Board, Nicholas Duche, term expiring December 31st, 2026. To the Human Relations Commission, Brandon Jordan, term expiring December 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
I'm just glad that we have people that are interested in serving, and we've been wanting to fill these positions for quite some time. Myself, I was on Planning Commission before I joined council, so like I think they are important positions. Parks and Rec can always use help, can always use resources. So I'm just glad that we're able to, through the Citizens Leadership Academy, identify good people and appoint them tonight.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions?
Yeah. Are we going to be appointing any more in the future, like with our next meeting too?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-51?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Hakeem Jones,
Aye.
Rebecca Smith,
Aye.
Rashad Bates,
Aye.
Tiffany Hendley, I should hear you. Dustin Queenan,
Aye.
Heather Lewis,
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution passes. Mr. Jones, request of council to advertise ordinance 22-02.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance 22-02 is an ordinance to establish dawn and dusk hours for the municipality's park and recreation areas. Council, as you are aware, you actually do have, the council does have the authority to establish hours of operations for parks. Several of our parks already have dusk to dawn hours already established. As we looked at parts that don't, we also look to see if there's really a specific ordinance that deals with that issue, period. Obviously, that we have as staff, I know you have as council members, have been fielding calls from neighborhood residents regarding debris, drug paraphernalia, et cetera, that's going on in the parks. And so we wanted to bring that to your attention, and one of the things certainly that as staff we're not trying to, particularly from the police and the outreach folks we have on the ground, we're not trying to intervene in an aggressive way, but we do need to have a way to address the situations of what's happening in the park. As you are aware, both staff and members of council have been actively engaged with the council, with the commission for several years now, trying to avoid exactly what's happening in Norristown right now with the closure of the chalk, which is really, in our estimation, from our analysis, not really the main issue of why this is going on. With the 50 beds that they had out there, they were already severely, for the county, underbedded for that issue. And what was happening is not just Norristonians, but we had a team to go out that spent the last month out interviewing the homeless as well, working with them, working with the regional housing and health services and other safety net agencies. And 32% of those folks, yes, are Norristown residents, but 68% from our survey were not. And our ask of the county has been to work with us for the last 5 years to do that. And we're in a situation now where we've got to address residents who are concerned about bringing their kids to the parks and complaining to that, about that. So we're asking council to consider formalizing this so that the posting can be in every park, and that we have whatever, an established ordinance that says you have determined what park hours are for every park. Because not just even with just the homelessness issue, we've had to deal with illegal dumping. We've had to deal with crime situations that are going on, victimization of the homeless and others in the parks. And so that's why this resolution is brought before you for your consideration. And we just wanted to get some guidance from you and direction from you as to whether you want to establish that.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
I'll defer.
Thanks.
Councilwoman Smith.
I've got a couple. My first question is a question that I already asked a couple weeks ago, but if we're going to do this, what sustainable solution is in place to refer people to actual real help that they need? Because my understanding right now is if we connect them to social services, they might be handed a tent that'll point them towards a park that we're going to refer them to. Like, that doesn't feel sustainable. If we're enforcing dawn to dusk hours at parks, that doesn't solve any homeless issues. So it'll be crowding, paraphernalia, tents on streets, in parking lots, in woods. It won't solve the issue, it'll just move it. And so I'm kind of wondering what's the sustainable solution there, other than just posting a sign so we can say we did something.
Thank you. We've been asking that and trying to engage the county in that for years, and that is, you know, that's not our wheelhouse. But I tell you, every intervention that you know is led by the police, and we have social services folks on our police team who are working with county agencies, with the regional agencies. But as you know, we've got agencies from 4 counties that house their clientele there, and so we're Norristown trying to manage a 4-county issue, and that's the problem. So on the real side of it, I know that the county has taken some steps to address it. I know the president, vice president, myself. We've met with our counterparts in the county to push them to address it. The president before this president, the president before that president. We've been in this discussion with Montgomery County for 5 years about a realistic approach to addressing something that we don't have the operational wheelhouse for, nor the fiscal resources to address it, and we've asked for their leadership and continue to ask for it. What we're doing now on the ground every day is, you know, I know Senator Capoletti and I met with the regional director for housing and services on Commuso, and with the person who's in charge of homelessness issues for Montgomery County. We met with them as recently again as a couple of weeks ago to talk about how do we adjust the approach for Norristown, because what we've identified again is that 68% of the folks who are in town are from various communities in Montgomery County, from Philadelphia, from New York, from Puerto Rico, from several other places. And because of the county's approach historically of doing homelessness and other safe social services, as well as the states, concentrating on a state hospital program, state hospital in Norristown, their model of delivery is still focused on service in Norristown, but it seems to me that they're understaffed as well, and I know they're trying to make some adjustments now in terms of other places, but even before they closed the CHOC with 50 beds, and this gentleman has said 500 plus, our count was 150 to 200 before the CHOC closed. The problem was the problem, and so we're committed as a team. We're working with every day on the ground, but unless there's a source of funding to provide housing, which we don't, and unless there's a concentrated department of staff to walk them through the process, they don't. But our folks are working every day responding to what's happening in Norristown. So it may not, certainly may not, won't eliminate the issue, but the other side of it, as I shared, is that what we're getting is calls from residents with children and other family members are saying, you know, we're going to these parks and we're seeing paraphernalia, we're seeing illicit behavior, we're seeing all of these things. We need some relief, and it's a tough decision, but that's where we are.
So I guess walk me through. So if I am sleeping in a park in a tent and we put the sign up that's enforcement, and it's 2 a.m. and Officer Smith comes and wakes me up, like what happens from there?
When we go out to the parks, we go out with, we contact, usually now it's central services, because access is not as, and we go out with them to try to get them help at all times of night, at all times of day to get them help. And that's basically what would happen. I think the decision ultimately is going to come down to it. Do you, in one or more park, as a council, want to make that accommodation that's the place or not? But that's what happens. We ask for help, and ultimately, what we're told in terms of our interviews of folks is that the county can't help us. We all know that there's no place for them to go.
So they're connected with services. There's no place for them to go. So like, then what?
Is their tent packed up for them and they're
taken from them? Packed up?
What we've been doing, but I'll give you an example. At Riverfront Park, we have a construction project that is supposed to be underway. And so how our approach has been to go in advance and say, hey, we've got X happening in this park. We need you to relocate because we have equipment coming. When we have that conversation with them, we have social services there. We have the regional and the county social services there with us to talk about alternatives for help. But at the end of the day, and I acknowledge, there's no definitive plan that the county has established that we have an alternative either. I think we're left with the wicked issue of leave it alone, which obviously you can do, or respond to the complaints that residents have about what they're finding in the park and not feeling comfortable utilizing your parks.
Council, any other questions?
Yes, and I mean, and I told you, Grant, I'm gonna be that girl. I'm just not satisfied with that answer. Like, and Chief, maybe because you knew I was gonna rope you into this. So I guess, like, you didn't necessarily answer the question. Like, we post this because we've heard from both sides of the community on that, and definitely, me personally, I understand from personal experience what that's like. And so when, say, we do post this and enforcement is out, forget the construction or whatever, and the police roll up and it's 2 a.m. and there's a tent, what is going to happen? Like, you've got services, but we all know that there's no place for them to go. Are you going to ask them to relocate at 2 in the morning? Or, I mean, if they be like, nah, I'm tired, I'm just going to lay here, like, what's going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Because we want everybody to be safe, both the folks that are, homeless, and our community. So I don't know,
So homeless is not a crime, and we don't want to make it that way. We're very compassionate. Officers develop a relationship with these homeless people when they go out there and talk to them. But a couple of times we did have people, like with this Riverfront or Aki Park, we talked to them for weeks. And they got to know us. Like, for example, the guy at Aki Park, we knew his name. He had 2 jobs. We know things about them. It's not like we just show up and say, hey, you got to go. We do give them deadlines. The one guy at Aki Park was actually harassing kids, begging for money. So parents were concerned for their children. So we went to him. We talked to him. We told him, hey, you got to go by, Friday or whatever. And he's like, I got to work tonight. When I get home, I'll move. And he moved. So we haven't had any confrontations. Usually when we tell them to leave, they do leave, and they'll go. But like Councilwoman was saying, they basically go hide somewhere else, out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, until the leaves fall. And then people will be calling saying they're somewhere else. But we haven't had that we don't want a confrontation. We want to connect them with services and things like that. So that's what we've been doing so far. We haven't had any issue. We could issue a citation or summons them after this is passed, but that would be the last resort.
That was going to be my next question. So if we put this dusk to dawn, does that now become a crime?
We're not trying to make it a crime.
No, but if we make it an ordinance and they're there, then they're breaking our ordinance.
But right now, if we don't have this passed, then they can stay there as long as they want, and we say leave, and they don't want to leave, and you got neighbors complaining, saying they want them out, and I get emails and calls, and Randall as well, and they say we're not doing anything about it. If we had it, it'd still be the last resort, but it will be something to hold over your head, like, hey, you got to move, and you got to move because you are breaking the law, but it's a last resort. We're just not out
And
here.
how many officers do you have on staff?
Not enough, so.
But every one of
A
them, I mean,
resolution.
and just like we heard about, you know what I mean, the response to the parking in the alley, because people park in my alleyway too. I have to drive on the sidewalk, get nails in my tire and stuff like that to get around to park at my own house. So I understand that, you know what I mean? And so it's just, is that the attitude across the board? That we don't want no rogue, you know, officer or somebody just having a bad day and, you know, something escalates. I understand it's a last resort, you know what I mean? And I'm happy that it hasn't gotten to that and definitely don't want it to be that. I'm just, you know what I mean? It's a fine line to navigate this, you know what I mean, when it's just sensitive.
And honestly, I honestly appreciate that. I honestly appreciate the position it puts you in. I'm with the gentleman. I mean, we have always been willing to go, and we do. We've been petitioning the county. You've been petitioning the county to do something. We'd be happy to go and deal with addressing the county. I wish folks would go to the county commission meeting and raise the issue. For us, you know, we're responding like Chief said, between what residents are saying and recognizing what the need is. That's where we are. So wherever council ends up on it, we'll do it, but recognize from the standpoint of at least us being able to take some active measures related to what pressure residents who don't want to walk into this and don't want to bring their kids and family members to the park and are complaining about it. You know, we have to be able to say something on that side of the equation as well.
Can I ask a question on my out?
I've got a follow-up question. Are you? No, go ahead. All right. Just related, so like, as comment, I don't know that I'm entirely comfortable with passing an ordinance that the intent is to sometimes or sometimes not enforce depending on the situation as the responding officer kind of sees fit. Even if your belief is that all the officers understand it's a last resort thing.
It's a clear policy. Like if someone did do that, it'd be violating policy and they'd be subject to disciplinary action. Like that's a clear policy that, you know, no one is allowed to do that. So that could happen, but they wear body cams and we have on you know, camera. So, but I understand what you're saying, but it's a clear policy.
The ordinance we're voting for is to establish dawn to dusk, not dawn to dusk, in the event that it's the last resort and an officer feels like they need to. And I guess my related question then is, again, I'm not really sure that this is the thing that's going to solve the thing you're getting calls for. I'm assuming that parents aren't bringing their kids to the park at 2 in the morning. They're there during daylight with their kids. And so if it's dawn to dusk, we can enforce after dusk. Like that doesn't stop anybody from being there in the daylight.
Well, the camps are getting established.
Right.
And the paraphernalia and the feces and other things. And like the young lady said, it's not everybody, but it's happening, and the counters now. I, for instance, notified today that you know, what is it, calls for service, CFS or whatever y'all call it, calls for service related to this issue have increased and are increasing, and so for us, we just want something that we can do to respond to citizens who are saying we don't feel that it's safe to go into our parks. However right or wrong they are about that, that's the response. And I know that, you know, us having toured, I mean, we took a team out, we walked and drove and walked several of the areas in town that we're talking about. I stepped in feces. I know what folks are seeing out there. In terms of what they're complaining about, and what we're doing, you know, in terms of all of the things that Public Works has to do, all of the things that the police have to do in terms of dealing with the normal range of issues. We have always been dealing with this issue in some degree, and we're just trying to find a way to balance between what residents are saying and certainly be as humane as possible in our treatment of folks who are caught in that position.
Yeah, I don't think this is an ordinance to send a police squad out to break up, encampments, but it gives us an avenue to be able to try to clean up our parks, because it's a quality of life issue for the residents that live here as well, right? I'm sympathetic to the homeless population that's here, and I'll battle the county with you any day on it, on anything, really, just that's easy. But when we sit here and we're telling the people that pay taxes and live here that, we're not going to do anything about homeless encampments in the parks and needles in the parks and people defecating in parks, and just last week somebody masturbating in a park in front of kids, then we're not doing our job. That's our job, to ensure quality of life for our residents, right? And the dusk till dawn, this isn't like some new ordinance that was dreamed up by Norristown. Dusk till dawn ordinances are in every park, everywhere around here. Plymouth, Conshohocken, you name it. I mean, would you think it's outside of the homeless issue? Would it make the park safer at night if there was drug activity going on in the park, and then you can enforce this as far as dusk till dawn? You can't be here, right?
That's just standard practice. Like I was in Philly for 24 years. I want standard practice to clear parks out at night.
Yeah.
So when it gets dark, everybody leaves out the park and they close it up.
Exactly. This is just a standard quality of life thing. This isn't us just breaking up homeless encampments, sending a crew out to arrest people for sleeping in a park. This is an avenue so we can create a quality of life for people that live here, and remove them from the park, try to get them services so that we can have a cleaner, nicer town, right? I mean, to me, this is nothing more than just a standard ordinance that pretty much everybody has that wants a nice quality of life in their town.
I'll add on too. As a resident, a homeowner, growing up here and now raising kids 3 and 4 years old, what happens at night usually it surfaces during the day. So if there's drinking, there's activities, there's smoking, there's things happening in the parks at night, unless our public works department is out there first thing in the morning, it ultimately affects the family and their children. The ordinance might not prepare. It might not be enforceable because of the situation. Again, you're going to move people from the park, they're only going to go to the next space. So the problem lies with the big issue. How do we address the relationship with the county, the relationship with the services? I like the idea of park hours, like Council President said. Most communities, all communities have park hours, dusk till dawn. Even teenagers, teenagers are tempted to be in parks, certain times of the night. So I'm okay with the park hours, but we still got to address the issue of homelessness.
Yeah, and I think we all have been. I mean, every one of us as a council person that I know of has had conversations with the county, right? We've had it multiple times with the county commissioners, and we're trying. We're doing our thing as far as it goes with the county. They have to step up to the plate. You talk about the closing of the CHOC. They've had 5 years to relocate that. 5 years. And they did nothing. And they can point fingers at the state, and they can point fingers at this one and that one, but they did nothing for 5 years. That's not Norristown's fault that the CHOC closed. So, we're doing everything we can. We have an obligation to supply a good quality of life to our residents, and I think I'm in favor of passing this. Any other questions? With that, I'll make a motion to approve or to advertise ordinance 22-02.
So moved.
Madam Secretary?
Hakeem Jones?
Aye.
Rebecca Smith?
No.
Rashad Bates?
Aye.
Dustin Queenan?
Aye.
Heather Lewis?
Aye.
Thomas LaPera?
Aye. The ayes have it. Request to advertise passes. Mr. Jones, council discussion on possible rebranding campaign for the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Council, I put this on the agenda to have a discussion. I don't know if anybody is in here is aware of Norristown, where you belong.
Got a shirt.
Right. You got a shirt. And you probably, and that's probably a collector's item.
Yes.
Right now, so from what I understand, around 2009, that council took on the issue of doing a branding campaign for Norristown. I got here in 2013, and it was gone. And from my research, I saw that, and I said, "What's that? What that's about? What's that about?" And it was probably 2010 that it got abandoned, somewhere right after, because apparently there was some political infighting in the community about the branding. I understand that one of the symbols around the branding it got beat up. And so from that point forward, you know, it kind of, we've loosely held it as, oh, well, we got this logo, we'll throw it on stuff every now and then. So a few years back, as certainly Heather remembers, because she and Councilmember Moman at the time were active in going to the National League of Cities Conference and brought back this information about a grant, and we got this grant really to deal with resiliency issues for the city, and there were a number of recommendations that came out of that $250,000 grant that brought a whole bunch of folks in the community together to talk about what is it that's going to make this a resilient community. One of the things out of that grant was that we go to a different sort of way of looking at our budgetary process, which we have been doing 5-year budgets since that time. And one of the other things had to do at the time with consideration of selling the sewer system to really try to deal with it, which we went through that exercise. And a third was looking at the stigma that has followed Norristown ever since its economic decline, I guess, with the great migration of the middle class out of Norristown. And so that recommendation was that Norristown should really consider looking at maybe a branding campaign to try to fight against that stigma of what the town is. And I kind of kept it on my tickler list of things to talk about, but wanted to make sure that it's the right time to talk about it. And now seems like the right time to talk about it because of the amount of activity that's happening and about to happen in town. You guys are well aware of all of the investments you've done with the 10 million, but you're also aware of the first 10 million of ARPA, but you're also aware of the projects that are going on in town, like Main and DeKalb, which is a transformative project. County's downtown redevelopment of the Justice Center is a transformative project. We know Kennedy Kendrick is going to be a transformative project. You've got a skate park going on, and of course you've got the 68 acres that's going to be conveyed to the municipality within the next couple of months as a transformative opportunity, which that will be the biggest economic development project in the history of the town. Ultimately, that's going to be in your hands. And so thought it was a good time to see if council is interested in looking at taking on branding as rebranding of the community, you know, as a part of this process. And I was really looking, like, as we're getting ready now, we're going into budget. I'm having budget hearing with the department heads, and we were obviously going to be bringing information to you, and I wanted to kind of get your feedback in terms of what your interest in doing something like that, because it really would take the city in a place that they tried back 11, 12 years ago, but it's not a one-time deal. So I think 11, 12 years ago when they did that, the branding campaign was around $150,000. Jane, if you can, was $150K or so that the council spent then doing that, and then it just kind of died on the vine. So I don't know what I would figure it would probably be somewhere between 150, 250 to do it again. But the issue becomes you have to sustain it with an ongoing marketing, that the municipality will actually take up marketing as a part of its annual strategy for getting it out. And I think that was part of, for whatever politics that might have gone on around it, that was a part that was missing then. And so if you underwent a rebranding process, it would involve, again, getting a third party to come in, work with you guys, work with the community, do a whole bunch of research to find out really what is Norristown now. And we know it's a lot of things. I know as a Georgian, I think about ZEPs, I think about a whole lot of things about what, I think about the zoo, I think about a whole lot of things about what Norristown is. But, you know, getting that input from residents, focus groups, whatever, to design some sort of branding vision for the community that you then actively act on every year going forward, putting something in your budget every year going forward for marketing purposes. I thought about it in context of like, well, what happened in Phoenixville, for instance? Oh, they didn't do a branding process. It was kind of like, it just happened, and it went along, and properties got bought, and people developed, but they never did to my knowledge, you know, Phoenixville is next, or any type of branding project. So sometimes organically, it may happen over time, or sometimes it can happen with intent. Now, if you do it and don't do it with intent, research has shown about 86% of the time a branding project is going to fail. And I think that's what happened the last time, that whatever those politics were, it kind of shut everything down and it didn't move anymore. And so with that, I just wanted to get your thoughts about it, whether it's something you're interested in considering in your 2023 and beyond budget, as far as, is this timing right now for you to kind of look at a different way of approaching how we talk about and communicate about the city in some branded sort of fashion.
Thank you. Crandall, for council, any questions? Mr. Jones.
I think the rebranding is tough, given all that we have going on right now. It's just how I feel. You want to promote and brand things, but if you look, we just discussed homelessness. We got tents. We have people that don't have places to go. It's kind of counterproductive. And until we address those issues, in a sense, I mean, I feel like, you know, branding's good, but the folks still want to see the roads fixed. They still want to see potholes done. Like, let's keep working towards cleaning up before we go all out and spend money to paint a picture that isn't right there right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I agree.
I have to agree as well, and you know, it sounds like a great idea, a nice idea, and if it's done right. But the Chamber of Commerce and the Norristown Experience Commission, they kind of already have a branding video, and they're already doing that, and we have an MOU with them. So like, I don't, it kind of would seem a little bit like redundant, kind of to have our own branding and then their kind of branding, and so it almost seems as if we already have that with them, with that MOU, and the, you know, I've seen the video they put together, and it's great, it's incredible. They did a wonderful job, and I think it would kind of just be redundant if we did it as well.
Could we continue to work alongside of them and maybe share resources with them to carry out our mission and what we want to accomplish?
I think the work with them is great, and I certainly enjoy working with them, and yeah, I love that video too. And I'm again, this was not to convince you, this was to ask you. But the goal, what they're doing is not branding. That's an aspect of it, and so and branding is a much bigger piece. But I hear you in terms of what's going on in town, in terms of the other issues, and when I look at, you know, all the infrastructure stuff that is going on in town, and the projects that are going on in town, maybe it's a couple of years down the road, like you say, that we do it. But I wanted to get it out there before I put any time in research in trying to bring
It's
them.
very important.
Yeah.
Because you get the right tone of story.
Right.
Yes,
There's a lot
yes,
going on that
absolutely.
We couldn't be tooting our horn about that. A lot of people ask the question what's going on. That's part of marketing and branding as
Right.
well. To let people know what's going on. And that could draw different projects and different people to Norristown, like it should be. Because Norristown's about to transform. So I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But like you said, time is everything. But it's definitely something we should be talking about to find that right moment to do it. Because it is important for the future of Norristown.
I'll come back next year. I'll come back and ask it again next year.
But I do think messaging is important, you know, 'cause there are things happening, you know, you see buildings that are stuccoed and you see new buildings that have been dilapidated and vacant for decades you're seeing them come alive. So I do think messaging is important. People see potholes everywhere, but they also need to understand that there will be an end of the road. Those potholes, you know, those streets, Pico and Water Company did so much work that all communities are going through that right now. You're upset about Main and Markley, but if you go further up the road to 202 and Skipback, it's the same thing. Or Montgomeryville, it's the same thing. So I think the messaging, some of this funding we could use for messaging, you know, could be useful.
I do know as much as you know, part of the pain side of the joy and pain of being the county seat is that what's focused here, so much of the social service delivery stuff is focused here, so it tends to concentrate in Norristown. But what you're getting ready to see, I think, with all that you've already said grace over, and what you're getting ready to say grace over, is going to offer an opportunity, and let's hope that, you know, the work with the council, the county, will be fruitful in trying to address some of the issues in terms of their service delivery model. But like I said, I'll keep it in the forefront of bringing you back to it, because I think it's, you know, once we address that, there's a clear opportunity, and you hit it right on the head in terms of bringing that right kind of projects and businesses that you guys have been talking about all along. You want to bring to town, and part of it is what's your message about what your town is all about. So thank you. I appreciate the input.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance. Ms. Fisker.
Thank you, Council. Tonight, I have resolution number 22-49 for request for council to approve the execution of a master equipment lease purchase agreement with Bank of America Public Capital Corporation. Back in May, we came to you to request permission to pursue financing for vehicles and equipment in our capital improvement program. And you approved it, and our municipal financial advisor went out and through the RFP process and came back with Bank of America, and they gave us the best rate and the best terms. Jennifer Dickerson from Davenport will present the process that she went through for the RFP and how she came about to recommend Bank of America.
Thank you. Good evening. So as Ms. Fisher mentioned, I was before you back in May to talk about this master lease program that will cover the vehicles and equipment for both the municipality as well as the Stormwater Authority for fiscal years 22 through 24. We sent out the RFP back at the beginning of June, and responses were received on July 13th. The municipality received 6 proposals for the master lease program, and the banks that responded really represented the major providers of master lease financing. As Ms. Pfister mentioned, Bank of America's response had the lowest interest rate as well as the most favorable terms. And so just to go through that, Bank of America proposal had the lowest fixed rate of about 2.76% for the first tranche, which would be for the 22 vehicles and equipment. And then estimated rates 2.85 and 2.79 for tranches 2 and 3. Just to give you some perspective, the rates for tranche 1 from the other banks actually ranged from 3.14 to 3.65 about. Bank of America was the only one in the 2% range for tranche 1. For tranches 2 and 3, those are based on current market rates, those interest rates that I quoted. They are based off of an interest rate formula that Bank of America provided, as did the other banks. But those rates based off of this interest rate formula will be fixed at the time that those draws are made in August of 23 and August of 24. Now, Bank of America was only one of 2 banks that were willing to actually provide all 3 tranches for the vehicles and equipment. And while the municipality was looking for a 10-year term for tranches 1 and 2, and a 20-year term for tranche 3 because it included funding a fire truck, Bank of America offered a 7-year amortization for all 3 tranches. The other bank that did bid on all 3 tranches was JP Morgan. They did offer a 10-year amortization for all 3 tranches, but their rate was actually a lot higher than Bank of America's. The other good thing about Bank of America's is it allows the municipality a flexible prepayment provision. So it allows for the municipality to prepay in whole on the payment date after half of the term has expired. So if you wanted to take it out early after half of the term is expired, you can pay that off early and refund it if you want. In addition, the proposal did not include any additional costs to be paid from the municipality, so there were no bank counsel fees or fees for an escrow agent, which some of the other proposals had. So now I'm just going to walk through a few slides just to show you the difference between the debt service for these projects that I showed to you in May versus what the Bank of America proposal looks like. So for tranche 1, which would be the 22 vehicles and equipment, using that 2.77% interest rate, you can see here on the left, those are the planning rates we used, and the Bank of America proposal is on the right. And you can see that overall debt service is about $33,000 lower than we had initially anticipated. And while it is a shorter amortization, 7 versus 10 years, the annual budgetary impact to the municipality is only about just over no more than $7,000. So very minimal. So overall you have debt service savings, and the annual budgetary impact is minimal. Now looking at all 3 tranches, planning rates versus the Bank of America proposal, you can see here that overall debt service is about $615,000 lower than the planning rates that we utilize, due to a combination of the lower interest rate that Bank of America provided, as well as the shorter amortization, the 7-year versus going out to the 20 years. However, you will see that given that we've shortened that term for the fire truck from 20 to 7 years, the impact to the budget is, between 25 and 29 is about $105,000. So a potential solution would be actually to remove the fire truck from this master lease, and include it in the upcoming bond sale that we also talked about in May. That's going to take out the short-term ban that you issued in 2020 for the initial amount for the municipal building, as well as the additional costs for the municipal building. And putting that fire truck in the public sale will actually allow you to have a 20-year amortization still. And so this last slide is really just looking at all 3 tranches, just taking out the fire truck for the master lease. And you can see here that annual budgetary impact goes down from about $105,000 to really no more than $22,000. And you still are about $56,000 less in debt service than the planning rates that we came to you with. So really what we're asking for tonight, there's a resolution before you to accept the Bank of America proposal. If you accept the Bank of America proposal, then we move forward to closing on August 16th. And on August 16th, you would receive the funds for the first tranche of vehicles equipment for fiscal 22. So with that, and in the appendix, I did include the summary matrix of all the responses that were received. So you can look at, have that for your reference as well. But happy to take any questions that you may have.
Council, any questions?
So I guess are we deciding whether or not we're going to keep the fire truck in this master lease or not? Do we still have to make that decision, or has that been decided?
I mean, the bank is willing to remove the fire truck. If you want to still fund the fire truck, that's fine, but we need to kind of make a decision, because if we're going to include it in the public sale, we have to include that in the numbers, and the public sale is planned for mid-October. So
Seems like it would make sense to put it in the public sale.
yeah, because you can, because it'll be lower debt service payments for you overall, and you can finance it over 20 years, which is within the useful life of that fire truck, rather than 7.
And that wouldn't affect when we would get the fire truck or anything like that, right?
No.
It would still be on schedule.
No, it'd be the same.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-49?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Hakeem Jones.
Aye.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye. Guys have it. Resolution passes. Thank you. Chief Wood, Resolution 22-48.
Good evening. We have in front of you a resolution number 2248, request from Municipal Council to approve the annual payment of $24,003 to Cody Computer Systems Incorporated to maintain the police department's record management system. We've been using the system since 2006. All our reports, intelligence, information are all used through this system, so we're requesting that you approve it.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-48?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Hakeem Jones.
Aye.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates. Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye. Ayes have it, Resolution 48. Chief, Resolution 22-50.
This is a motion to approve civil service rules and regulations amendments. The first one is to make an applicant for the position of lieutenant must have attained the rank of sergeant and must have combined 5 years of experience as a sergeant and corporal within the Norristown Police Department to be eligible for the captain lieutenant's exam. As you all know, we had a lot of people retired in the last year or so, so we don't have enough people to actually qualify for the lieutenant's exam, so we had to make some changes so more people could be qualified to take the exam. The second part is for entry-level police officer. We have, the old rule was only 50 people could pass a written test. The top 50 people were eligible to take the test. We're having not enough people qualified to take the test. So if we only go to 50 people, we were competing with all these other places. And before we even get to the top 50, we only get 10 people that would show up. And we don't have enough people, because a lot of those 10 people, some will fail the background, some will withdraw, and we have like 4 or 5 people. So we made a request to make it 100 people, to have more people, and qualify applicant pool where they take the written exam. So we're asking for you to approve that.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-50?
So move.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Hakeem Jones.
Aye.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye. Guys have it, resolution passes. Thank you, Chief. Ms. Mansanye, presentation by developer of 1 West Main Street.
Thank you, Council President. I do know that for some of the council members who've been on council for a while, have asked about the status of the 1 West Main Street project. I do have the representatives of the developers in, I don't know if they have the presentation ready. I think Kevin is trying to get the presentation ready. But in the meantime, excuse me, I should have had this down. It's okay. In the meantime, if I could just give you a background so that for the benefit of the new council members who might not be aware of what had happened. This whole journey of trying to repurpose and bring the PNC building back to life started in 2012. The developer then, One West Main Street, LLC, purchased the building for $2 million, $100,000. And the plan then was to build 8 condominiums on each floor of the 4th and 5th floor. And those upgrades were going to cost the developer almost $1,700,000. In an attempt to make this deal work, the municipality worked with the developer to basically actually repurpose an $850,000 state grant that had been set aside for another project, and the municipality was almost losing it if we didn't use it, and we felt it best that it be used for something that would help Norristown, especially the downtown of Norristown. So that is the RCAP funding that was dedicated. RCAP funding it's unique in the sense that it's not the type of grant that a developer is just offered and then they do whatever they need to do and then they move on, but rather the developer has to put up their funding, meet the requirements of the state, and then the state will literally audit those the expenditures as they release the RCAP. So they have to meet the requirements. And this RCAP funding comes directly from the governor's office. So over the years, what happened, unfortunately, for this project is that there was a state, there was a problem with it. I think if you all recall, at some point, there was an impasse with the governor and the legislatures, and so they were not releasing any funds for quite a while. Work was done at the site. However, during that whole time of the impasse, it was clear to the developer when he did his marketing that they were not able to sell condos at that particular time. They might do well now, but at that particular time they did not. So they asked for the modification, which was approved. Instead of the 8 condos, they're going to be 24 units on the 4th and 5th floor, rental market rate. We're okay with that. Found out too that with the RCAP funding, it couldn't go directly to the residential. But the RCAP funding was really supposed to be for more of the commercial use or the repurposing of the building as a whole, not necessarily the residential. That being the case, the state said, okay, there's certain things that we're going to allow to be paid by that grant. And those things included replacement of a roof, upgrading a sprinkler system, replacing the windows, and I do believe some, I think it was the elevator as well. But this could be funded with that money. Over the course of the years, the improvements were done, but there was also an impasse between some of the code issues that were supposed to be adhered to, because now it was a high-rise building. There's certain code issues they had to adhere to. And I'm not going to get into the issues that were between the partners in the development, but our aim was we need to get this project done. That being the case, we've worked closely with the developers. The developers had to sort themselves out. The developer who's here tonight is representing the LLC. He's agreed to come and talk to council to let council know where he is with the whole development. The 2 floors that I mentioned, the 4th and 5th floor, are complete. They're ready for people moving in. He's going to give us an update on that. He is aware that the ground floor, which is commercial, is also available. He's trying to market it, but he's also here for feedback as well. He's not totally just saying, this is what I'm doing. So, Mr. Mahdi, if you're ready and you have your presentation, I think council would like to hear where you are, with the project, and I'm sure they have questions they'd like to ask of you. And you're older, right? I'm sorry. Older.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay,
Good evening. Don't see how to operate this one.
Kevin. It's the mouse. You're up.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's my first time. So we're talking about 1 West Main Street, and it's not only a beautiful building, historical building, but it's in the heart of the house. I'm having big wishes and aims that this building is gonna bring the life to this area. However, there's a lot of things moving around. The building is historical. It has so many historical elements that we need to survive. This is my point of view as an architect, but definitely everybody will agree with me. And since 2016, the building has got approved a building permit for the 4th and 5th floor to be converted into 12 residential units. I'm sorry. So it's been approved to be converted into 12 residential units each floor, and the 5th floor, it has a loft, so it's more unique design. The finishes is really well maintained, and it's ready to be leased. And most likely, it start being 6 units being already now had a contract, and 4 units already occupied. So we're shooting to, this is the floor plan for the 4th floor. It has 12 units, and this is the 5th floor also has a 12 units. And that's the mezzanine level for the 5th floor. We're looking to get the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor moving forward with 10 units each floor. And also, this is the adjacent building, which is 9 West Main Street, the same ownership and the same owner. It's being used to be, 2nd floor is 3 residential units. They sharing the same lobby. It's a rear lobby as well as there is a front lobby from Sweet Street. And this is like what we are willing to do, but the main reason is here is just to give you our progress on the 4th and 5th floor, plus what we are trying to finish, and we're shooting to get the 2nd and 3rd floor occupied by 2023 in November. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yes, council, any questions? Do you have a timeline, for the 2nd and 3rd floor, they're just gutted right now, they're not under construction at all, so you're looking to get construction started fairly fast to get occupied by your timeline?
We're looking to start construction for the 2nd and 3rd floor in December.
Okay.
After building permit got approved. And when we start December 2nd, we're looking to get this construction completed in June 2023.
And then as far as the commercial space on the 1st floor, you said you are pretty much...
I passed this question to the owner.
Hi.
How you doing?
It's good, how are you? The commercial space, we are advertising it and with different real estate agent, and we are trying to get a tenant. So it's really tough, but still we are trying to do everything we can, and we offered upfront money to some people if they are interested, but so far we don't have a solid tenant yet. So, and we want to bring something, I mean, we have some different idea, we can bring some kitchens, display in that, but we don't want to do that. That's our last result. So we are working with agent. There was an furniture store interested to go there, but again, we didn't have a solid offer from them yet. And number 9, still we have a small tenant we are discussing where they want to put events. They want to do an events, parties in that space. Still we are negotiating with them, but still nothing solid. But regarding the sign, we are working with outdoor sign to see if they can advertise on it, and they say they might come to the city and work with the city. They have some programs to do with the city, and I'm hoping that he's going to be here next week. I'm waiting for his confirmation. I dealt with him previously, so that's where we stand. But regarding 2nd and 3rd floor, as soon as we get the permit, we will start.
What was the holdup with, I mean, this started in 2012. What was some of the challenges? It was...
Mostly it was with my partner, let me be open. And on last April 26, I bought him out, and since April 26, we finished the 4th and 5th floor and we resolved all the violation. And then I start working on 9 Westman Street. Tomorrow I have a pre-inspection with Jeff. So hopefully by end of next week, maybe we have our CO for even number 9, and we start leasing.
So it was like internal challenges that you had, and those things seem to be moving forward. Good.
I'm curious, you said you weren't interested in having a restaurant, which I would refer to as the bank space?
It's a big space. There is no restaurant is willing to come to this. It's about 8,000 square feet.
If I may, and I just want to start this course. There have been very good ideas that have been brought for that space, including something similar to a Reading Terminal, a food hall, things of that nature. And in fact, the manager and I were talking about it, and we are on our way to look at a food hall somewhere and talk to the management there to see if we can connect them with the developer so that we can bring something like a food hall. We believe that will be a better use for that type of space.
We were and
the developer is a very open.
Very open. Very open.
He's been very open, so that's how. And so we've already worked that.
The furniture, so I'm like.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful space.
It's a beautiful space.
It's a gorgeous space, and I see Reading Terminal type of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we've been trying to do. So we've already put a list of consulting and management firms that do that across the East Coast. We're going to visit one to see for ourselves, and we're going to be working with Mr. Mahdi to see if we can work that happen. That's what we feel is the right thing for that type of space. And he seems to be very willing to work with us, so.
Just wanted to occupy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Council, any other questions? Councilman Jones?
Thank you for your update. I'm glad that the project is back on track. I have a few questions. Can we, the restaurant space on the 1st floor is in use. Can we remove the lettering and kind of just present it? Because some folks who don't know might think something's operating there. So could we, hate to say, but could we remove the lettering from Divas and clear that out so that it's just a clear, open, attractable space?
Yeah.
Just to help with branding and to help folks see that maybe there is nothing there.
Sure, no issue.
Cool, thank you. And
No problem.
Yep.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Update.
other question.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you
One more
so much.
question.
One other question. Did you say people are already living in the units right now? Did someone say 4 people?
4 people, yeah. We start leasing in beginning of July.
And what's that rent looking like, that average?
We start 1,400 up to 2,000.
And that one, and the 2nd and 3rd floor work doesn't interfere with people's safety getting in and out and?
You should know.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Mansanye, memorandum of understanding between the municipality of Norristown and the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Thank you, Council President. If Council will recall, I came to you sometime in May and asked for permission to apply for a grant that will help us complete a traffic study for the redevelopment area. Well, I'm pleased to announce that we did receive the grant of $80,000. And now to move this forward, the Delaware Valley Planning Commission is requesting that we enter into a memorandum of agreement. This is standard. Basically, we will do what the federal requirements and state requirements in procurement, and making sure that we're using the money correctly in the manner in which they have put forth in the grant. So we're asking tonight council allow us to enter this memorandum of agreement so we can start on the study and upgrade our traffic data that is really critical for us going after infrastructure money. A whole lot of money that's out there that we need to go after, be it for streets, bridges, be it for traffic pattern changes. Those are the type of things we want to be able to go after, and this data will be very useful in going for those funds.
Council, any questions? Seeing none. Do we need to make a motion on this, I guess? Yeah, a motion to approve the MOU between the municipality of Norristown and Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Hakeem Jones.
Aye.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Heather Lewis.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it. MOU passes.
Thank you.
Ms. Massanier, Gaudenzia Foundation, zoning hearing.
Council, from time to time, when there's zoning matters that I think would be of some interest to council or some controversy to a neighborhood, I make sure that I apprise council of it so that when we notify the neighborhood that a certain type of use or certain business is coming into the community, at least council is not being blindsided when it's actually at the zoning hearing board meeting. In this case, we have Gaudenzia Foundation that is applying to have their outpatient behavioral health services located at 102 West Finance Street. And I think most of you will know where that is. That's where the Fugo Eye Institute was. It's vacant now, and I think it's being marketed. I did meet with the applicant. I kind of tried to tell them, is there any other place you would like to go? And I was very successful at that. But I mean, they have every right to appeal my decision. And in this case, the argument is that this use is permitted by special exception, and that means that it would go to the zoning hearing board, and there's a set of criteria that the zoning hearing board looks at to make sure that they are in fact in accordance with those standards, and whether it's the approval. It's actually, how do I put it? It's not an approval by right, but there's a process they have to go through, the special exception. Now, I just want to let council know that we notify residents 300 feet from that very location. So the likelihood of you getting calls is very high when we send it.
The senior,
yes.
adult housing is right there.
Absolutely. So I imagine there are going to be a lot of calls that you will get. And I thought I would apprise you of this. The application is going in front of the board at the end of the month. And I think this is the time for council to make a decision on whether you want to support this application, not support the application, or remain neutral. I can give you a little bit of what they do, what they're proposing to do. I think some of you may be aware of it, but I'll just, for your edification, I'll let you know. They've been in operation for 50 years, and right now they're located on Main Street at 166 West Main Street. They had two locations, but it appears that they have one. They're trying to consolidate their uses, and they're going to be providing a variety of what they call behavioral health services, which include mental health diagnosis and treatment, addiction prevention and recovery support services, housing, inpatient and hallway house services, outpatient individual and group counseling, specialization treatment, and prevention services for women, pregnant women, and women with young children, and withdrawal management, detoxification, and medication-assisted treatment. They're proposing to be open 5 days a week. The regular hours would be Monday 9 to 8:30 p.m., Tuesday 9 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., Wednesday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Thursday 9 a.m. to 8:30, and Friday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As I mentioned earlier, they will be seeking a special exception from the zoning hearing board, and may I remind you that they are also a nonprofit entity, which may affect, I think, the taxes that that Kathy was looking forward to get. So I've brought this matter before you to let us know whether you want the solicitor to represent you, or whether you want to remain neutral. Whichever way, we'll do what council wants.
Council, questions? Council.
So you mentioned taxes. Is this up for sale, or are they leasing? Were they planning on purchase?
That's actually a good question. My understanding is that they're buying it. They're memorandum of an agreement. That's my understanding.
Okay, so they're planning to purchase it. So so as a nonprofit, you are correct.
And also sale contingent upon them getting the approval.
Usually that's how it works. And they're represented by an attorney. I'm sure he's well aware of that he wouldn't be getting his client in a matter where he can't. Yes, it's usually contingent.
No.
Yes, they do have an agreement of sale.
Will they be moving off of Main Street, or just open it up?
Yes, they appear to be saying that they want to consolidate their operations and move them there.
We'll find them some land in Springfield Township.
Yeah, that's like a real residential area. You're moving from kind of like a non-residential area right in the middle of a
downtown.
A lot of people walk there too. It's less accessible.
Way less, yeah. I would make a motion to send the solicitor to oppose this.
Yeah.
So moved.
I get a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Hakeem Jones,
Aye.
Rebecca Smith,
Aye.
Rashad Bates,
Aye.
Dustin Queenan,
Aye.
Heather Lewis,
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye. Ayes have it. Do us good, Mr. Kilkenny.
My best.
He does carry.
I watch too many kids' movies.
Departmental reports. Mr. Adenabo, Public Works.
Good evening, Council. It's been a busy month for Public Works. We are actually taking care of most of what we take care of on the public right of way. But there are some other additional things that we've added. One of them is in-house paving of our alleys and some of our streets. So that has really been taking so much of our time. Public Works has equally been working with Keyhole on the ongoing resurfacing work that they are doing on our streets on behalf of PICO. And some of them are most of them are turning out very good. I'm hoping that the PICO paving done by Keyhole will probably be ending sometime about end of September. Public Works has been inspecting what they do, and then I actually agreed with them on how to get it done. Public Works has equally been very involved with PennDOT in the Markley project. Actually, there's an aspect of the project that PennDOT will want to hand over to the city, the sidewalk. And one of the main reasons is that they think that they finished it and people park on them. And because people are parking on them, they are running into some problems. And the agreement that we have with them is such that we can accept these jobs in piecemeal. So Public Works has been working with them, inspecting this sidewalk, and then pointing out some issues. So hopefully very soon that will be finished and it will be taken over. And if it's taken over, Public Works will start maintaining them. We've been working with Mascaro to actually do a better solid waste collection, and I think it's been working out. We meet with Mascaro 2 times a month, and then I drive around with them, looking at things, and we've made sure that right now the inspectors, Mascaro has 2 inspectors that are actually supposed to be driving around the community, and it's being enforced right now, and the cost we get about trash pickup has really decreased from, maybe we used to have an average of 20, but it decreased to almost 2. So that really means that the residents are probably appreciating what Mascaro is now doing more than before. One area that we've really seen so much increase is dumping. We used to have one person dedicated to picking up trash in the community right before, but right now we have 2 people. And you cannot believe that we have 2 truckloads of trash that we pick up every day in this community. So the dumping has really gone up so much, and it's taking so much of our time. And we really, there has been so much construction of sidewalk in this community. We've been approving permits for sidewalk because we've been talking to residents where we have a lot of drift hazard, and people have been responding. So that has equally kept us very busy. So we've been very much involved in approving sidewalk for repairs and then inspecting sidewalks too. So on the whole, we've paved 5 alleys this year. The intention is to pave about 15, but we are going to run into budgetary problems because the cost of paving this alley went up by more than 100%. So what we budgeted has really affected it. So it's been a very busy month for us and very busy summer too. And I'll be ready to answer questions that the council will have.
Council, any questions? Councilman Jones.
Thanks for your report. I noticed Stamford Street was recently paved. It looks really good.
Thank you.
So, looking forward to the other ones getting done. The alleys is where I've been on council for a while, and those are some concerns for long-term residents that live in private alleys. And I know you've been explaining that there is a process in place to teach the residents how to obviously get the alleys addressed that might have a financial cost involved. Could we host an info session or some type of public forum to talk to these residents about that alley process if they want to do it as a community?
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's a Zoom call or something in person, because I do think there's enough concern about private alleys that residents want to get them done. That's the only thing I have.
And there's something I want to talk about private alleys. The way it is stated right now, because some people are taking advantage of it, it's stated at some 5%. There are 2. The process is that some 5% of residents that live on this private alley will apply, signed by homeowners. And when they apply, and then we'll look at our budget and see if we can really help them to do what they're supposed to do. That's to be able to maintain it. That's the way the ordinance is. Then there's another process of if they are interested in dedicating it to the city. So, but what has really been a problem for people that have applied to see public work can help them to repair some of these alley problems is that they cannot even get the 75% of the residents of the home. In fact, what the ordinance says, homeowners that live in the alley applying, and then we'll look at it. And really, I'm very ready to help them if I can really see that application. And it's very well advertised in the website. It's very clear. I took time to detail it on the website. Yeah.
Council, any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, I've shared with you in writing for your continued edification if you want to do it. I'll also send it to you in an email as well, electronically. I can go through all of them, but if you like, but I'll start with the underground storage tank issue. As you know, that they had found the underground storage tank on our property, the county did, at Maine and DeKalb, when they were preparing their project, and they needed to cross our project to do some stormwater measures. There's a back and forth about who was responsible. Ultimately, it's worked out as we intended it to, and the county has taken responsibility, but our solicitor, myself, and the RDA have been managing the process to make sure they do it the way we need to do it with DEP. Ultimately, the testing, all the testing that needed to be done, the county got it done, and it is determined that the contamination is nominal to the point that the soil could actually be used as fill on the site. So the county wants to use it as fill for their project, and we're fine with it. We're going through the process now. All of the necessary paperwork has been submitted to DEP and through the RDA. That's our agreement. The RDA would do it on our behalf. And we're waiting now just for DEP to do its closeout, and that issue has been resolved to our satisfaction. Municipal Hall. So structural steel is complete for the building. The steel work is getting ready to move to the dormers interior of the existing building. There's shoring that's gone up along the walls, and as that steel is put in place, that's going to be removed. Site work is currently underway. The underground basin that needed to be constructed is complete. Now they've started grading stormwater, and site lighting is underway as well. I know that we've started the work to connect the electronic vehicle stations, the 2 electronic vehicle stations we're going to have in the front of the building. Curbing and paving is going to happen this month. The mechanical electrical work is complete in the basement level and is roughed in the ground floor. And the police are still on that first level, so and until they can get them off of floors 1 and 2, you know, they've done as much work as possible, and now it's that time to do it. We're running into a problem with the police needing more space than they had originally shared in terms of just the temporary move to the basement, so that we can go up and do those top floors. We've worked that out. And they are near completion of that work. We've got a steering committee meeting with the contractor tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and we will set that move date tomorrow, but I expect it to be within the next 2 to 3 weeks that the police will be moved from first and second floors, and then they'll go at it full bore the rest of the way. There was a second challenge in that the existing structural plans for the building had that some of the walls, the existing masonry walls, had it that they were actually solid walls. And so, again, one of these peel back the onions and you find out that in some of those places it's not solid. And so for the work that has to be done, and really to support the structure of the building, they've got to inject and make those areas that aren't solid. And so we're working with them now to, they're working with the architect and the contractor to come up with a plan that the engineer, the construction manager, myself will look at, say grace over it, they'll say grace over it, and we'll move forward. And so once, again, that and the move, the rest of the way, again, they're expecting December, January still, that we'll be able to finish the project. Talked a little bit about Riverfront Park, but Riverfront Park now is, the contract, as you know, was awarded. We're waiting right now for the final contract documents, but I think it's as soon as next week. they're going to begin doing work and begin the construction work out there. We went through a very, as I shared, process in terms of working with the encampment that was out there to give them adequate notice that to move, and they did, and we gave them a significant amount of time to do that. As I move on to the issue of homelessness and a little bit of what we've been dealing with that, with the encampments and other issues that are going on in town, and it's really Senator Capuletti and I a couple of weeks ago we met with the county head of all of the homelessness programs for the county, as well as the regional director for behavioral health housing in the region, to look at what it is they're doing on the ground and how they can do it, and talk about how they can do it better to help Norristown. The chief's team that had been working primarily with the folks in town had identified some issues that they have in terms of particularly Your Way Home and access services, some challenges they had in terms of working together. They talked about the fact that Central Services, which is more another program based in Plymouth Meeting, has been very helpful and more effective with them. So in our discussions with Camuso, who is in charge of the regional, and Ms. Jordan, who is in charge of the county programs, we've now got our team working more closely with their teams in terms of being able to help us work with the populations that we have in Norristown. I shared with you we spent teamed in the police department, the social services team in Christie, spent a significant amount of time in July out actually conducting the survey of homeless and talking to them about what they need, how the county's programs are working, what can be done better to help them, and we've consolidated that information in a report that we shared with you. I've talked and have not submitted it and shared it with the county or the regional health services folks. I wanted you guys to get a chance to look over it first, but I have let them know that we need to have a meeting to talk about those issues that we've identified. But I can say that the regional health director has made a concerted effort since the meeting with Senator Capuletti. He's been reaching out. He's been meeting. His team is now meeting with our frontline team to see what we can best do to help address the situation on the street in Norristown. I'll move on to the recreation master plan and kind of put that with the ARPA funding requests that we've talked to. So as I shared before, municipal engineer and I have sat down, talked about the putting together of a formal and more detailed proposal for a rec center and stormwater measures for that entire parcel of properties that we own along Harding Boulevard, and also in line with the master plan discussion that includes the possibility of Roosevelt Field as well. We will prepare that document, and it will have the proposed. And what I asked them to do was think about, the state-of-the-art centers, rec centers in the region, in our area, and the ones that we've talked about, Plymouth and other way. Think about that type of a center in terms of just specking out a cost, and just as a beginning talking document, and then deal with the issues that they see in terms of stormwater management issues and how we might need to address that, and put a number around that, knowing that when we go through the master plan process and we end up with whatever it is, council finally says grace over that, those costs may change, but at least will get us in the discussion where we need to be. So that process is underway. I should get that document back not too long a fashion, because I told him it's urgent. I want to get that out on the table, and then I'll certainly share it with you guys once I've received it. Next item, just to let you know, we're in labor negotiations with the police. We had an agreement with the FOP that we would delay this negotiation. Should have happened last year, but we were waiting for the new chief, and we were all in COVID mania, so we all agreed to have let's continue where we are under the current contract agreement and negotiate. So we've had a good meeting with them. All of our intent is that we will do this as expeditiously as we can, and we'll see. But I'll definitely be sharing the details with you of what their offer is, our counters are, so that you can see where this is going. I think our negotiations in the past have gone well and not been really contentious. I don't anticipate that this year as well. And they usually had a good team of folks to negotiate with us. We also we made to reach out to the crossing guys, because it's their year for labor negotiations as well. And so we've done the outreach to them, and we haven't gotten any word back from them, but we're moving on that. I shared earlier that I've started budget hearings, particularly capital budget hearings, with the department heads, and we're working with finance to put all of that together. And we'll definitely, obviously, it's going to come to a discussion with you guys in terms of your priorities, as well as saying grace over whatever it is that ultimately is presented. And immediately after we do that and get through the capital process, we're going to start with the operating budget as well, so that we can get that to you guys in a timely fashion. We did a great job last year. I think middle of November, the November meeting, got the budget done. I went to Paris. I'm not going to Paris, but I want to get it done in November again, if we can. So that's what's happening with the budget. You awarded, I moved to the sewer system assessment. You awarded from the first round of ARPA funds, $675,000, might be $695, I get the number mixed up, but $675,000 at least for an assessment of the sewer system. We had been waiting for the sewer authority to finish their flow meter testing because they wanted us to focus on their priority areas that they identified for their flow meter testing. We're going to include those priority areas, but we keep reiterating that the council's desire was comprehensive, and we'll certainly include that. And so they've finished and submitted their flow meter data to us. The engineer and I met with them earlier this week, and well, it had to be yesterday. Got the data, and so now they are analyzing that data to incorporate in the bid documents that we'll put out shortly for contractors to actually come and do the work of analyzing TV in the system and putting the report together. So that's going on track. We had thought we'd get it in July, and they did follow through with that. Skate park. As you know, we did the phase one, and as I shared with you before, as a result of that, we identified things like railroad tracks and the possibility that there may have been, well, there used to be some type of depot in that space. So for due diligence purposes, we're doing the phase two. That phase two is underway, should be done in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Most of that time is really waiting on the DEP to say their grace over it. So the team has started doing borings out there and doing samplings of what's below ground to see if there are any phase two issues. Cal shared with me he didn't anticipate that was going to be any serious issues out there, but whatever issues are out there, whatever is identified as a result, it'll be included in the bid document that goes out, that's part of the remediation that the successful bidder will have to deal with if there are any issues out there. And so maybe 6 weeks at max, the documents will go out, and it'll be bid for about 30 days, and then we'll go to that next phase of that. RACP for the Consolidated Firehouse. So I've had conversations with Representative Bradford and also with our lobbyists about just making sure how that's tracking. We're right now at that stage where we're just waiting on the governor's budget to settle, and it does to settle. They haven't released any information yet, but our $2.5 million that we're requesting for that is still in the hopper, and we're just waiting for word. So it's kind of an any day now situation with that. Oak Street Courts. Just one of the things that Kathy and I had a discussion about, as you know, that the damage that happened and the need for the new to install the new backboards, and really I wanted to deal with the issue of making the poles black. And so we identified some funds, since we know we have to do the master plan. We had in the CIP money to redo the courts in the basketball court inside the building, as well as install the lift. With the high degree of likelihood that that building is going to get torn down, or at least definitely not reused for the permanent rec center. The money that can be brought to that can save, which is about $190,000 not spent on that. A portion can be allocated to resolving the outstanding issues with Oak Street Park, getting a third party to come in, install the goals, paint the poles, and the poles are pretty much the new poles are pretty much the same in terms of gooseneck type that are out there. We just paint the poles black and make them fresh and new. We can reuse the other poles. I know there's some discussion we're having, and we want to have ultimately with the communities. There are a couple of other places that we might be able to put basketball courts, just to create some more, so we could repurpose those poles if ultimately that's a decision. So to use about $18,000 to $20,000 to get Oak Street Park resolved and put it and done. Also using that same source to go ahead and take care of that slide issue that's Oak Street Park at MLK Park. Now there's a second issue that we need to deal with that I think we should consider using these funds for as well. Some of you, certainly older council members, might recall we've had this issue with Crawford Park Wall. And we've had the court issue with Crawford Park Wall.
Seasoned council members.
Huh?
Seasoned. Sounds better than older.
Say that again?
Seasoned.
Seasoned, not older.
Seasoned. Some of the more experienced, council members have known about this. But we've had this issue with Crawford Park Wall for a while, and we had actually ended up. We ended up with the survey that the Crawford Park Foundation has a part there, obviously, and the wall is primarily in their part. We petitioned them because of the park abutting the road, that the wall was collapsing. We need you to deal with it. We ended up in court. I still think it was one of the raw deals of court. It was a raw deal of court. The court said we were 95% responsible for the wall. Now, we haven't gotten an official written order that we can find, but that's what was reported, that we were 95% responsible. We had our municipal engineer survey it, and it showed absolutely that most of the wall was in the foundations part. But what they went off of was an old, I don't even call this a survey, it's a drawing by a long gone public works director or employee who had drawn what he thought, and that's the basis on which the judge went in terms of who was responsible. That being the case, we need to deal with it because the fire department, public works, and certainly even Mascaro is having issues, and it's not going to be able to bear the weight of everything. It's a safety issue for the little community of folks that's in there as well, and able to get those access. And we don't want the fire department to have to ATV themselves around there or do all of those things. So the municipal engineer looked at it. There is the recommended. I talked to him. The recommended solution, and he's given a proposal, and is to put a shotcrete wall against it that would support the road, and that should resolve it. It's about $90,000, probably another 10 or so, maybe more for contingency. There's money inside of that same capital fund to do that, and it's my intention, unless I get an indication otherwise, to bring resolutions to you at your next meeting to address the park issues and this issues using those capital funds with basically a CIP amendment that we can move the money from those things to address these issues.
And everything Crandall said was correct, and Crandall asked me to reach out to the attorney that was involved with the park, Mr. Hemsworth of Hammer Rubin. I assume he's not getting paid or something because he never responds. But after speaking to Crandall and going back and forth, I think it's absolutely necessary. If our engineer and everyone thinks it's a safety issue, we got to just go fix it, right, and then worry about the responsibility later. You know what I mean? That's my advice. But yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And so at best, we're going to be chasing 5% of that cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. At best, we're going to be chasing 5% of that cost. But I'll have it on the agenda of both those resolutions at your next meeting. And then the last thing I'll share, again, for the most seasoned council members, you recall, I referenced it earlier, that we had this grant opportunity from years ago where we did these things. And the folks, IBTS, who did that grant, reached out to me in July about the possibility of the municipality participating in another project, and wanted to know if it would be something I'd be interested in pursuing. I said yes, but obviously council would have this final word, and they were preparing a grant. And basically the project is to address equitable energy resilience planning with a focus on community input and engagement to improve energy resilience in vulnerable and marginalized neighborhoods. And so they'll use a similar approach that they use with us, community engagement approach that they use with us, to basically come up with a strategy, plan, and a blueprint for ensuring solar energy planning and project implementation for vulnerable communities, and want to use us as one of the three. We were one of the 3 communities that they used in that first grant, and wanted to use us as one of the 3 communities in this grant. He actually notified me today that they got the grant, and so definitely want us to participate. I know he wrote into the grant that the municipality would get like $50,000 for participating in the process. I don't know yet what any stipulations are around it, but as I said, it's been really great working with them on that first project, and we still use the tools that they had. And and from that first project, I know I've spoken at 2 or 3 national conferences with them. They're asking me to speak at the city managers conference about that project and that first project, and again, that's coming up in Columbus, Ohio. So I think it's a good opportunity, certainly, to deal with energy resilience for our community and for citizens who are vulnerable, just to be a part of the process. And so that will be coming to you once he gets it all formalized as a proposal to engage with them again. And that's my report. Be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Council, any questions?
Really good one. Another one that the seasoned council members might recall. Would this last project help support some of those Ready for 100?
It would, yes, it would definitely be a part of that whole climate, climate change program, and go well with what we're doing. We're doing some work now with among the consortium of communities, without managers in the communities. We've got a project going with Delaware Valley Planning Commission and the county to kind of put together a cafe list of things that communities can do to meet climate and Ready for 100, and this would fit beautifully right in that.
Great.
Council, any other questions? Thank you. Seeing that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.